So, Toby, Tale of Tales, how aware were you of the original source material before you started work on it?
Well, I didn't think I was aware of it at all, and then I realised that his collection of fairy tales predates all the Grimm's ones, and he had actually collected early versions of Rapunzel and Cinderella, which obviously a lot of people know and grow up with. But I had no knowledge at all of these three strange tales that are in this film.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I was surprised by that as well. The fact that, given how influential it is, that I had no prior knowledge. Were you surprised by that as well?
Yeah, because you think that this stuff would be you would have heard of it, but I suppose Grimm's have sort of like they've had the monopoly for so long that you don't look elsewhere because they sort of had these huge collections.
Your storyline in particular, I found very difficult to try and describe to people. I was wondering if you could tell me in your own words what your character goes throughout the film, because it is quite an extraordinary journey that he experiences.
He goes on a massive journey. I mean, as with a lot of folk tales and fairy tales, characters have to go on a massive journey in a very condensed, in a sort of very compact amount of time. It's sort of an epic condensed into a short story. So my character lives with his daughter in a castle and an ageing population of courtiers. His daughter is coming of age, where she's becoming interested in romance and interested in meeting a prince. So she's effectively beginning to leave home on one level. And my character is so negligent that he fails to really register this. And we see this negligence in the fact that while she's talking to him and impressing him, he's more concerned with a flea that happens to land on him one day in the courtyard. And he then becomes so fascinated by the fact that the flea, he strikes up a sort of relationship, or he thinks he does, with this flea, and that relationship begins to overshadow his relationship with his own daughter. And that stupidity, that idiocy, that negligence, he is then paid for it. He then pays for it by losing his daughter to a certain extent. I'm trying to do this without giving away the whole story.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But I think I think the fantastical element of his growing relationship with the flea and his daughter's coming of age show that the daughter is becoming an adult almost while he's becoming a child, regressing to become a child. And I think what I loved about the tale was this reversion. And even in the space of this short story, one of 3 short stories, we see in the climactic image a kind of reversal, that the parent has become a child again and the child has become an adult. And in a way, that's a journey where adults returning to childhood is sort of what happens in old age,
Mm-hmm. Was that, the special effect of the flea, was that a lot of CG, or was there a lot of practical effects on set as well?
There was a bit of CG, but not so much. It was practical. I watched in horror as someone crawled into the backside of that flea, and then another person as well, and watching this extraordinary creature and trying to relate to it. Because I don't know what a flea looks like, and as they grew, and these different puppets and models came out, and the way to operate it became more and more kind of anthropomorphic. The involvement with the puppeteers, it was really useful to have the real things there. So often in films now, you're operating with blue screens and green screens and sort of going, "Watch the tennis ball, Toby," and you go, right. But here, they were actual things in the room.
Did it also help that, obviously, Matteo being Italian, and I just spoke to him and he mentioned using Italian locations where possible. Was that also helpful in terms of bringing the story to screen?
Yeah, where we shot the bulk of my stuff, there's this castle, and you can't see modern life anywhere around it. You're near Bari, but you would never know it. You look out, and this castle is totally isolated on a mountain. It's a medieval castle, and you look out, and as you see in the film, there's nothing there. That hasn't been erased using CGI or anything. That is what's there. And Italy's like that. You get these magical landscapes which are still intact.
Excellent. I just wanted to ask you about a couple of your other projects. You've obviously been involved in Captain America, and recently they've announced that Steve Rogers is part of Hydra. I was wondering if you'd read that. Or
I didn't know that. He's joined Hydra?
Well, that's in the comic books, yeah. So I mean, how do you feel about that?
That's great news. I mean, that's fantastic news, isn't it, for me?
It's good news for you, yeah.
I mean, actually, anything's permissible for me. Anyone can do anything now that I'm effectively immortal. Everything's kind of an anticlimax, once you're immortal. Shock me if you can,
It's, that film, as well as this one, I guess, is big ensemble casts. How do you cope with working with that? Is that something that you enjoy? And what disadvantages can it have, having so many people on set?
Well, I mean, it depends on how the film is organised. I mean, that's a question of scheduling in a way. And the way Matteo worked on it, he worked on 3 separate films, and there was just a little bit of interconnection, as you know, in the funeral cortege and stuff. But really, we were working as a unit. Bibi and Guillaume and I, we were working in our own sort of little short film. And that's great. I mean, I don't really have anything to do with the other actors. So when I saw the film in Cannes, it was fascinating to watch the other stories, but also the other landscapes they were operating in, because they're all very different landscapes that the films operate in. Working with Marvel, I'm sure most actors feel the scale of the project is so staggering that you often feel like a tiny cog in this vast sort of system. I think I was when I joined Captain America, it was like I was being given a visa. The producers went, "Welcome to the Marvel Universe," and I don't think at that stage I understood quite what he was saying. But it clearly is a universe with lots of different planets in it, and so I'm very happy to be part of that. I'm just doing Sherlock at the moment, and Martin was obviously in the last Captain America, and we were talking about our different roles within the same huge storyline, and that's just one strand, obviously.
Mm-hmm. And obviously Benedict, who is also now in the Marvel Universe as well. So how are you finding working on Sherlock? Is it a lot of fun, as you'd imagine it to be?
Yeah, I've got a fantastic character to play. I mean, it was that, obviously I really enjoy Sherlock, but it was really the character here is so dreadful that it was too good an opportunity to turn down,
Mm-hmm. And is it? Can you notice how quintessentially English it is compared to some of the other stuff you've done? Obviously, Tale of Tales and even the Marvel stuff. Does Sherlock still ring true as a British institution?
Well, it does. I mean, I think people enjoy its Englishness, its quirkiness. All those sort of cliches about being English. A certain kind of, I suppose a kind of eccentricity that one associates with the original Sherlock. But then I think what people have actually really enjoyed is the kind of the updating of it, if you like, the computerizing of it, the use of text, the use of actually dramatizing his visualizations. That seems less quintessentially English and more belonging to I don't know, Apple, or Silicon Valley than anything else. And I suppose it's the combination of the two that people really enjoy.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Pleasure. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey